Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Selectmen's Meeting held in the Great Hall at 272 Main Street. Preliminaries is that votes may be taken. I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call at this time.
Sulicio present.
Cindy King present.
Gordon Clark present. At this time, would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Uh, 1.3, I'd like to announce that this meeting is being tape recorded, and also that there are individuals in here doing personal video and audio recordings. 1.4, Chairman's additions or deletions. We'll be deleting executive session pursuant to General Laws 30A, and we'll be doing addition 4.12, review, approve municipal relief transfers for fiscal year 17 year end, referencing various departments. If we could just, to the board here, we go a little out of order. We have someone here who's nice enough to want to make a donation to our town, and they have a family commitment. So if it's all right with the board, I would like to move 4.1 up at this time. Is that all right with you, Cindy? 411, yes, thank you. Mr. Kryler, could you please advise us?
411 of the agenda this evening is a donation coming to the police department, and
address that issue.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce to the board, if you don't know, is Joy Namera. Further, just a little bit more about her. She's a town resident, and her son is a fireman in the fire department. And both sons, Lee and Ben. And she was nice enough to purchase 10 tourniquets and donate them to the police department. As you probably all know, these are life-saving medical purposes. Police officers have saved their own lives with them. They've saved civilian lives. So it's nice to have those. They're only a one-time use. Once you use them, you have to replace them. So we have 10 extras should we need them. And we're very thankful for her to do that. I don't know if you have any questions or thoughts.
Just a vote to accept.
At this time, I would like a motion to accept this gift, please.
Thanks. I move that Townsend accept the gift of 10 tourniquets to the Townsend Police Department with thanks and appreciation.
Second.
Second.
Can people hear me without the microphone? No? Yes or no? I'm sorry, Harley. I'll use it. All right. That's all right. Okay, motion's been
I'll just take
made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Let the record show that it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Chief, thank you very much. Okay, thank you people for your patience. On to 2.1. We're a couple minutes behind, but it's a joint meeting with the moderator and the North Middlesex Regional School Committee members for an appointment of Sheldon Chapman as a member of the Neshoba Valley Technical High School Committee for a 3-year term effective May 23rd, 2017 to June 30th, 2020. Mr. Kryler, do we have, or Mr. Barrett, would you like to speak?
I believe what I need to do is open the meeting of the joint committee of the Board of Selectmen, the North Middlesex Regional School representative from Townsend, and myself as the Neshoba Valley School. Is that on? Sounds like it's maybe not speaking into the mic. On. Low battery, though. Low battery. Oh, talk. Okay. Talk.
Sorry.
Should I do that over again? All right. I believe under the bylaws, the moderator is the chairman of the committee, so I would call this meeting of the committee to select a member of the Neshoba Valley Technical School Committee to order. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cindy, go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt, but I'm going to, I don't know if it's a typo on our behalf, or it says, joint meeting with the moderator and North Middlesex Regional School about appointment to the Neshoba Valley Technical High School Committee. Is that, am I missing, is there a typo? That's what you're doing?
That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Yep.
Never mind.
So the five of us vote on the appointment.
Right. We
Local school committee, the local school committee votes along with the selectmen and the moderator to appoint members to the Neshoba Tech school committee. It's just the way it works.
Okay, thank you.
we have a quorum, and the only matter before us is to either appoint or accept nominations. Are there any nominations other than Sheldon Chapman, who has been nominated to serve in this position?
Mr. Kryler's indicating no, so I don't know of any.
No. All right, then I think it would be in order to accept a motion to appoint Sheldon Chapman as a member of the Neshoba Valley Technical High School Committee for a 3-year term effective May 23rd, 2017 to June 30th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Lizio?
I move that the joint boards appoint Sheldon Chapman as a member of the Neshoba Valley Tech High School Committee, School Committee for a 3-year term effective May 23rd, 2017 to June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Any discussion? No Cindy, no Gordon Clark.
Okay. It appears we're ready to vote. I guess I would only state I'd like to express our thanks for Mr. Chapman for being willing to serve on this committee. This is obviously an important part of our town's educational process, and I'd just like to thank him for his willingness to serve. So, nothing else being said, all those in favor of Mr. Sheldon Chapman as the member of the Neshoba Valley Technical High School Committee for a 3-year term, please say aye.
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 Just for the record, the Board of Selectmen were unanimous.
I
And
think,
I'm only doing that because of the difficulty. Usually we have 5 microphones in the other room.
Okay.
This last minute unnecessary changes. So I'm trying to let the people know what's going on. So thank you, Mr. Barrett.
okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. And I think that is a unanimous vote of the committee to appoint the school committee member to the Neshoba Valley Technical School. So I think that we just need any other business? Ms. Lizzie, anyone?
I don't believe so, so we would take a motion to adjourn if you would like.
Accept a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Board of Selectmen is unanimous for the record.
And the committee is unanimous. All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you. Thank you for bearing with us. Appreciate it. Thank you for your service. Okay, we're now up to 2.2, Nashua Wild and Scenic River Study Status Report. We have 2 gentlemen here to speak to us. Could you, once you get the microphone, introduce yourself, folks?
Hello, I'm Al Futterman from the Nashua River Watershed Association.
Robert Pomperian, the Airtown Administrator and a member of the Study Committee.
Thank you both and welcome.
It's there, it's just coming up.
Okay. All right. Anytime you want to start, sir, it'll be fine.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Kreidler, thank you on behalf of the Natural, Wild, and Scenic River Study Committee for having us here this evening to make for you a brief status report of the ongoing study. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you're probably aware, the study of the Natural, Wild, and Scenic River is being done currently with representatives from the towns of Ayer, Dunstable, Groton, Harvard, Lancaster, Shirley, Townsend, and Pepperell, which have all voted through their boards of selectmen previously to authorize the study and to send representatives from each town to the committee. Congress authorized the study in December of 2014, with Congresswoman Tsongas publicly announcing the study in January of 15. So the question is, what is a wild and scenic river study? And I'm going to have my colleague, Mr. Futterman, talk to that.
Thank you. Congressionally authorized study determines whether a river segment, and the next slide will be a map, so you'll see what the segments are eligible and suitable for designation. This is all based on the 1968 Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. Presently, there's over 160 rivers so designated. The majority of those are out in the western part of the country. Here in New England, we do it a little differently as a partnership Wild and Scenic River. So there, out west, it's largely federal lands, and here, largely private. So everything that you'll see, and we'll hit on this point over and over again, it's volunteer-driven, and it's 3-year study. We're about halfway into it, so we'll touch on who is on the study committee in just a further slide. The outcome of our work as a study committee is to develop a management plan, and this is something that will come before the board again when we're done, as well as going to a vote at the town to approve that management plan.
So the study committee consists of a representative and an alternate appointed by the Board of Selectmen for each of the participating towns. And as you can see on the slide, it lists all of the participating towns, which obviously Townsend is one of, and the representatives as appointed by the Board of Selectmen. In the case of Townsend, it's Mr. Bill Wilkinson and Ms. Karen Chapman. Other voting committee members include representatives from the National Park Service and the Nashua River Watershed Association. And there are many non-voting members that are participating from the Mass Division of Ecological Restoration, Mass Department of Fish and Game, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the U.S. Geological Service. Additionally, their participating guests include local and regional resource experts and stakeholders from time to time throughout the Commonwealth, as well as the state of New Hampshire. And we've been meeting really on a monthly basis at the Nashua River Watershed offices in Groton. So what parts of the rivers are being considered? So the river segment 1 is the Nashua River main stem, and that's from the confluence of the North and South Nashua Rivers in Lancaster all the way up to the state line at Pepperell and Dunstable, with a 4-mile stretch of Pepperell Pond informally participating. The second river segment is the Squannacook River from the headwaters in Townsend to its confluence with the Nashua River main stem in Shirley and Ayer. And the third segment is the Nissitissit River from the state line to its confluence with the Nashua River main stem in Pepperell, with upper reach from Lake Pontonipo and Brookline, New Hampshire to the Mass state line informally participating. And here we have sort of a map. We have a map of those 3 segments. So the Squannacook segment, the Nissitissit, and then the main stem. And also for the board's benefit and the public's benefit, this presentation and many of these materials are also available on the study's website.
What we must determine, in order to be eligible and suitable for designation, are what are known as Outstandingly Remarkable Resource Values, or ORRVs. They come in many flavors. The ones that we're looking at are recreational and scenic, biodiversity, ecological, and cultural and historical as well. The cultural and historical piece stems from the story of the change from a very polluted river, one of the top 10 most polluted rivers in the entire country, to what we know today is a rather clean river.
So why is the study itself so valuable? Well, I think the first reason is an opportunity for the towns along these rivers to work together to protect this shared regional resource. And that has been happening over the last 2 years at the committee level with representatives from all of the towns. It also provides the towns with a structure and some expertise and funding to identify the needs, set goals, and implement the management plan to maintain and protect these rivers. And it's all locally driven by the towns, and it's entirely voluntary.
So, if at the point that we're done with our study and we're about to seek designation, it would be good to know what that designation would achieve. First and foremost, it would demonstrate both the outstanding resource and local commitment to protect them. It would prohibit new federally licensed dams and harmful diversions and ensure no adverse impacts from future federally funded, federally permitted water resource projects. The current study committee would morph into what we would call a coordinating council or a coordinating committee, locally based, and that would implement the management plan that we've come up with. And finally, it qualifies these rivers for annual federal National Park Service funding. And if you have wild and scenic river status, you could check off the box on any grant programs that are appropriate, boosts your priority status on those applications.
So what the study and designation does not do, and as Al and I are making this presentation to all of the member Board of Selectmen across the region and being the town administrator from AIR, a lot of these questions have come up. And it does not lead to federal acquisition of the river or its land. It does not establish a federal park or put land under federal control or force any changes in the local process of land use decision making, nor change any existing land uses. I think that's an important point, that all of the towns will retain the local control of their land along the river and the river. There's no impact on existing dams, and there is no effect on hunting and fishing laws, and there is no restricted river access, and it does not require public access to private land.
What we have to do next is, as we are right here, reach out to town boards, interested individuals, and what we call stakeholders. We're looking to both gather information and to receive input. We had a first public input vision meeting on April 27th, well attended from each and every one of the towns involved. The management plan is in draft form, will be shared for further feedback. And then, these are important points, we come back to each of the 8 boards of selectmen for a vote on the management plan and whether you would be willing to put the item on the spring, perhaps the fall 2018 annual meeting, at which point the entire town would vote on whether they agree with the designation and the management plan.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, through you, if there are any questions, also the slide up behind you has all of our contact information. The website mentioned, the Wild and Scenic Nashua Rivers website, has this presentation as well as a lot of information that may be beneficial to the board and the public. Also Al's direct phone number and our representative from the National Park Service as well.
Thank you for the presentation. Ms. Lizzie, do you have any questions at this time?
So your timeline to complete the study and present it to the towns is by next spring?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Also, you mentioned that this material is out on your website?
Yes.
What is your website?
So it's wildandscenicnashuarivers.org. wildandscenicnashuarivers.org.
It was the best we could do.
It's long, but
Is it on the Nashua River Watershed site as well?
And it should be, it should be linked to your town website as well.
Thank you. Cindy King, do you have any questions?
I do. My question would be, do we have a copy of this presentation available on our website? Looking to Jim. If not, if you
I'm
could
going to be leaving it on this laptop.
make sure that we do have that. What do you see as the most important thing that we can do for you tonight?
Certainly get your input. Furthermore, we do need more information from the town, in particular regarding history, because you have 3 historic districts in Townsend, all of which have the Squanicook River running through them. There's got to be a lot of history in town. Obviously, I know about the harbor area, Cooperage, et cetera, grist mill. But I think it goes so far back that I have yet to pull in that information. So if there's any contacts you have or any way of liberating that information, that would be very helpful.
I do have a couple of other questions. Now,
Sure.
There's been a lot of changes and discussion with FEMA on floodplain
FEMA?
issues. Have you been in contact with them about, or even NEMA, about some of the flood? They do some studies on the movement of the river, at least.
Not in relationship to this project. About 2 years or so ago, I did go to a first FEMA meeting in Leominster. They were looking for private citizens to give them information that they might not have, where areas may be flooding, etc. And I think they're redrawing the maps, but I don't know if they've released those maps yet.
So you don't have the disaster plan?
No, I don't have new FEMA maps.
Okay, there's quite a large emergency management plan for our whole region, which the plan, I have the entire plan, which is like 600 pages, because I did go to, I think I went to that same meeting that you went to in Leominster in the library? Yes. And then I went to a course with MEMA, and I ended up with the entire regional plan, which exceeds the individual town plans, which is about 600 pages, but it covers all the disasters that we've had in all of our regions. And I can probably, if you want to, we can connect after this if you want to. I can get you that. It's too large to, it's a Google Docs kind of upload, download, if you know how to do that. But I can get you that. It's not a confidential document, so we can do that. But I think the river stuff is really important to make sure that we're protecting that, especially with all the issues coming up with global warming, and there's a lot to be done. And I know Neshoba, the Nashua River Watershed Association, has done quite a bit of work over the years, and I certainly would want to do whatever I can to help that. So,
Mr. Crowley, do you have anything to add? I just would, on behalf of the board and the people of Townsend, thank you for protecting our natural resources. And if I could just suggest, Cindy King seems to have information, but if you could use Mr. Kryler as a person to keep us in the loop, so if he needs to come back to the board to facilitate that in the future, he will do that. Does that make sense to you folks?
Yes.
1 minute, please.
Thank you. Two things on the history side. it might be interesting to contact the middle school. Well, the reason I say that is because the kids have a project every year. Does anybody remember what grade that happens in? 3rd grade, actually, so that's Spalding. But the kids end up doing reports on the different historical sites within the town so that they can learn about their town. It might be an interesting slant, you know, to look at some of those. Also, we have the Townsend Historical Society, okay, that you might want to reach out to as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and I
Thank you.
appreciate your time. And
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Our audiovisual team over there, could we shut this off? I don't want to touch it and break it on you. Thank you.
I have it. Al, I have it.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to 3.1, to reappoint Lawrence E. Hartnett as constable for a 3-year term effective May 23rd, 2017 to June 30th, 2020. Do we have a motion on that?
Chair. I move that the board reappoint Lawrence E. Hartnett as constable for a 3-year term effective May 23rd, 2017 to June 30th, 2020.
Seconded by Cindy King. Any discussion? None. Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Let the record show that it's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to 3.2, to appoint Joseph Mazzola as Veterans Agent for a term effective May 23rd, 2017 to June 30th, 2018. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint Joseph Mazzola as Veterans Agent for a term effective May 23rd, 2017 to June 30th, 2018.
Motion's been seconded by Cindy King. Any discussion? None at this time. Motion's been made and moved. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Let the record show that it's unanimous. 3.3, to reappoint Karen Hill as a member of the Conservation Commission, member for a 3-year term effective May 23rd, 2017 to June 30th, 2020. Do we have a motion?
I move that the board reappoint Karen Hill as a member of the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term effective May 23rd, 2017 to June 30th, 2020. Second.
Motion's been seconded by Cindy King. Any discussion? None. Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Let the record show. Say aye soon. Let the record show Cindy King, aye. Gordon Clark, aye. And Sue Lizio has abstained. Thank you. Okay. Are we moving on to 4.1? Is that correct now, Mr. Kryler? Okay, thank you. At this time, 4.1, set election date for the school debt exclusion ballot vote. Mr. Kryler, at this time, could you give us an update? I know you've been talking to the town council and the town clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, we received an opinion from council after he had spoken with the town clerk at the town meeting, and his writing states that there's no prohibition in holding 2 elections on the same day, although it does pose a variety of practical and administrative challenges with 2 check-ins, 2 ballots, etc., and therefore the Elections Division is traditionally advised against holding 2 ballots on the same day. He then writes, that being said, however, it's a moot question because General Law, Chapter 54, Section 42C states that the town clerk shall not print any question on an official ballot, quote, for which she receives final written notice after 35 days before such election, unquote. He further writes, if my math is correct, that would require the board to have called a special Prop 2.5 election on May 15th in order to hold it on June 19th, and that would have been the concurrent with the recall vote. And unless the board had already scheduled such a meeting for that Monday, May 15th, with that issue on the agenda, it is too late to have done so. And this writing came in from Mr. Riley on May 11th, when it was already at that point too late to have convened such a meeting. So given that, that then leads to the question of when should the election be held. In consulting with the town clerk, she definitely feels strongly that it should be in the next fiscal year because it's not currently budgeted in this fiscal year, and she already has an election that wasn't originally counted on taking place in this fiscal year that she has to cover through a municipal relief transfer. She comes with a recommendation of July 18th, which is a Tuesday, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Tuesday, July 18th, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.
Are you all set, Mr. Crowley?
That's what I have from the town clerk, Mr. Chairman.
I just, with the lack of microphones in here, I'm just trying to make sure. It's a little cumbersome. Thank you. Ms. Liz, do you have any comments?
I have a question for Mr. Kreidler from me. July 18th, I'm not good at counting that fast. How many days is that from when we voted on the debt exclusions? Because my understanding is that it needs to be within 60 days of the vote for the school debt exclusions. It always was.
The math being taken into consideration from the town clerk gives me this date, so I can't speak to whether there's a 60-day or a 90-day. I believe she had indicated it was a 90-day when I spoke with her, but this is the date that she gives. I can reach out to her, actually.
I think we need to check on that.
Sure.
Because it has to do, I'm not sure if it's the regional agreement, but I remember somewhere where when the town votes on that, it needs to be ratified, if you will, by election within 60 days.
Otherwise, you default to the other votes.
Otherwise, you default, yeah. So maybe you could check into that.
I will actually right now. I don't know if you want to take just a couple-minute recess. I can call Kathy right now.
Cindy, do you want to talk for a second?
I'll ask a question on that same issue.
All right, Cindy just wants to, while you're doing that.
Make your call while I'm talking. All right, so you're concerned, what's the minimum number of days you were concerned about?
I'm concerned that it's within 60 days, because if it's over 60 days, I don't know what that means.
Right, I did have the same concern, and I think, what day was it that what day was our town meeting?
The first day, the first night of the town meeting.
May 2nd? And it's 90 days after that?
From the clerk, I got 90. Selectman Licio says 60, so that's what I'm confirming.
Okay. Either way, we need 35 days for the, I understand that for the
Oh, that's
the town clerk. Okay.
I just had to give the mic.
I have to give the microphone every time you talk. I know it's cumbersome, and I apologize. So, Sue, do you want to have something to say?
Okay, I know we're all set with the 35 days for the town clerk, okay? But what we might not be set with is July 18th. The question is it 60 days from when it was voted, within 60 days that you have to go to ballot? Or is it 90, as Jim originally was told?
If it's all right with the board at this time, I think I'd like to take a 5-minute recess so Mr. Crowley could research that. Do I have a motion for that, please?
Move that we recess for 5 minutes.
Second.
Cindy King, second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you read the North Middlesex Regional School District Agreement against the general laws for elections, and particularly as relate to overrides for education, the district agreement gives the 60-day window that Selectwoman Licio was talking about. That, however, is specific to a 60-day window beginning when the school district authorizes debt. The clock starts, and if you take no action at a town meeting as one of the member communities, you've waived your ability to speak, and it can take effect without your participation. If, however, within the 60 days, you do take action at a town meeting, then the general election laws, which provides the 90-day window, are what governs. So we are within our rights after the town meeting vote on the 2nd to have been within the 60 days, and then it becomes the 90-day window for the override vote, the minimum number of days of which needs to be 35.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. I'm just going to go back here. I know it's a little more cumbersome, but I'm just so we're on the record here. Thank you. Sue, Lizio.
So I make a motion that we set the election date for the school debt exclusion ballot votes for July 18th, 2017, from 8 to 8, I think is what Kathy said.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I don't believe there's any more discussion. Okay, at this time, the motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Cindy? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. One second. So we record that it's unanimous. Mr. Kryler, Sue has a question for you. I'm going to give her the microphone.
You could have asked, that's okay. I just wondered, you didn't mention what the cost is.
Actually, thank you. Selectman Lucio did ask me earlier today what the cost generally is for a special election, and the number that I got from the town clerk was $6,500 is the rough average that the town has used.
Thank you, Mr. Kryler. We're all set to move forward then. 4.2, to review and approve material bid contract extension, reference ALF asphalt from P.J. Keating. Mr. Kryler?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You should see within your packets the documentation coming in from the highway superintendent looking for the approval of the bid for bituminous. It's a contract extension, and allowing me to get to that document. It is bituminous asphalt P.J. Keating FOB at $64.
Do we have a motion on that?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the FY17 material bid contract extension recommendation for bituminous asphalt from P.J. Keating Company at $64.
Second.
Motion was seconded by Cindy King. Motion's been made to move. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let the record reflect that the vote is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to 4.3, review and approve a one-day liquor license for the VFW Post 6538, 491 Main Street, Townsend, Mass. for June 2nd, 2017, with sales hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. in conjunction with a college graduation.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve and sign a one-day liquor license for VFW Post 6538, 491 Main Street, Townsend, Mass. on June 2nd, 2017, with sale hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. in conjunction with a college graduation party.
Motion's been seconded by Cindy King. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Let the record reflect. Unanimous. Do you want us to sign them all out of session, Mr. Kryler?
You could.
Yes. Do we need to amend that or just do that?
It would be good if you did, yes.
Yes. Could you just amend that, please?
I will amend my motion to add, to sign out of session.
Seconded by Cindy King. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. 4.4, to review and approve a signed one-day liquor license for the VFW Post 6538, 491 Main Street, Townsend, Mass. for June 10th, 2017, with sale hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. in conjunction with a 40th birthday party to be signed out of session.
I move that the board approve and sign out of session a one-day liquor license for VFW Post 6538, 491 Main Street, Townsend, Mass. on June 10th, 2017, with sale hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. in conjunction with a 40th birthday party.
Motion's been made and seconded by Cindy King. And with that motion, it's also signed out of session. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Let the record show that you're unanimous. And our last one for that will be 4.5. Review and approve sign a one-day liquor license for VFW Post 6538 at 491 Main Street, Townsend, Mass. on July 8th, 2017, with sale hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. in conjunction with a wedding reception, to be signed out of session.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve and sign out of session a one-day liquor license for VFW Post 6538, 491 Main Street, Townsend, Mass. on July 8th, 2017, with sale hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. in conjunction with a wedding reception.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by Cindy King. All in favor? Aye. Let the record show aye. Unanimous. Thank you. We're moving to 4.6, review, comment, planning board mandatory referral referencing 73 Meadow Road Scenic Roads application. Mr. Kryler, do you have anything on this?
Just a standard mandatory referral. So what you see in the application material in front of you, it contemplates the removal of a number of stones from a scenic road stone wall for the creation or the allowance of a creation of a driveway, and that would need to go as a scenic road before the planning board, so that's why it's before you for your referral.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
How do we usually do this? We usually say no comment, or thank you, and
In my experience,
we defer to the board?
yeah, unless in my experience since I've been here, unless there's something specific that the board has a vested interest in from a permitting or regulatory perspective, it's just that.
So what do you need for a motion for that, or do you need one?
The way I've heard them in the past is acknowledging the referral and referring it back to the planning board for their consideration.
Okay. I move that the board acknowledge the receipt of the mandatory referral for 73 Meadow Road, and we refer back to the board for their expertise.
Second. Motion's been made second. All in favor? Aye. Moving on to 4.7, a little disclosure here. I received notification from the people requesting to do this from their lawyer. I am not in a butter, and I don't know why I receive notification, so just on abundance of caution, I'm going to ask Cindy if she'll take this over. And just so people know, I live at Libra Lane, and 2 lots away from me is the Witch's Brook that goes down there, and I think this land butts up to that. But just I don't know what the rules are, and I just want to be abundance of caution. That does feed our wells down there, but just out of abundance of caution, I'm going to recluse myself and step away and turn the chairmanship over to Cindy King. Thank you.
And can I have a motion on 4.7?
I move that the board, what did I say before? I move that the board thank the zoning and planning board for the mandatory referral regarding Warren Road stormwater permit and excavation, and refer it back to them for their expertise.
And I will second that. All those in favor? And the vote's unanimous between myself and Sulicio.
And could the record reflect that I abstained during that? Yeah, so I used to like when I turned the chairmanship back to Carolyn, so I'll take it back at this time. Okay, we're on now, folks, to 4.8. Award the Maria Lane Scholarship to a member of the North Middlesex Regional High School senior. I think Sue Lizzie was all right. You know a little bit about this. If you'd like to talk about that, would that be okay?
This is a scholarship that the town awards each year for academic excellence. The recipient is chosen by the guidance department, by the scholarship folks. And this year, the award actually is going to, where is it? Oh, sorry. Rachel Record. Record. Okay. And Rachel she's going to be pursuing a degree in criminal justice at the Honors College at UMass Lowell. She was valedictorian, ranking #1 overall of graduating students. Her GPA is 4.71 out of 4.5. And we are pleased, this is a letter I want to read from our treasurer. We're pleased to announce that you have been selected as the recipient of the Maria L. Lane Scholarship. The amount of the scholarship is $500 to be used to further your education. Your exemplary academic record as a student at North Middlesex Regional High epitomizes the ideal of Maria L. Lane and the scholarship established in her memory. The Board of Selectmen and the principal of the North Middlesex Regional High School send their congratulations to you and your family on your outstanding achievement. And all she needs to do is present our letter, our signed letter. So I move that we sign and approve the recipient for the Maria L. Lane Scholarship to Rachel Record. We'll sign that out of session.
Motion's been made, second by Cindy King. All in favor? Aye. Let the record reflect it's unanimous. And congratulations on earning this award and continued success in pursuing your education. On to 4.9, review, approve, sign water department contracts referencing Fitchburg Road Storage Tank Replacement Project. Mr. Kryler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've received from the Water Department a request to execute contract between the town and Atlas Painting and Sheeting Corp. for the above referenced project, which is the Fitchburg Road Water Tank Rehabilitation Project, which you'll recall was voted at the town meeting just last month. The effective date of the contract, I know that Superintendent Rayfuse is in the audience. There's a request, as I understand it, and I'll let him speak to it if it would please the board, to execute the contract with a date that's different than today's date. And it has to do with the bonding documents that already are in place. So if Mr. Rayfuse would mind coming up and just explaining that.
Mr. Rayfuse, you want to come up to the desk and use the microphone, please?
I believe the question was about the dates of the, basically the dates on the payment and performance bonds were dated April 24th, I believe, 2017. So in hopes that the board executes the contract tonight, we'll meet with the contractor and we'll put the same date as to execute the contract as the bonds that will prevent any further delays by going back to the surety and have them reissue the payment and performance bonds with a different date. If we put the date of the contract now, the payment bonds and the performance bonds date cannot be before the issuance or the execution of the contract.
Ms. Lizzie, do you have any comments?
Mr. Kryler, could you speak to the legality of what we're being asked to do?
No. It's a request that comes in from the superintendent. I do have a letter from Coleman and Page that speaks to the issue. I'll read it. It says, the performance and payment bonds, both of which are dated April 24th, 2017, do not include a date for the construction contract. Accordingly, once you have included a date on the contract, as described in item 1 above, the surety must reissue the payment and performance bonds to include the date of the contract. Please keep in mind when including a contract date and requesting the surety reissue that the bonds cannot be dated before the date of the contract lest they be deemed invalid. So what council is saying is, if the date of the contract that you're executing this evening is today's date, the bonds and sureties would be then invalid, which, as Mr. Rayfew said, will mean that you then have to go back and seek those to be reissued. I've never in my experience had a contract request where you come in looking for the board to execute and backdate the contract, because technically what you would be saying by doing that is that a month ago this contract was valid, when in fact it wasn't.
So are we being asked to backdate a contract?
No, actually, we're asking the board to execute the contract, just sign the contract. We're going to meet with the contractor. We will date the contract as of April 24th. That will not do anything negatively or against any law, according to the timing of the contract to be executed, for the job to be done before the allotted time. I think it's 60 days. So there's plenty of time for the contract.
But I think Jim just said that we can't backdate the contract. Backdating the contract would mean dating it on a date prior to today.
Yes,
my understanding. April 24th is not today.
Right. You're not putting a date on it. You're just signing the contract, requesting.
So you want us to sign a contract with no date on it?
Right. We will meet with the contractor and sign and date the contract then.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Kryler.
The document that has come to you, to the office from council, is the signature page, and it has the signatures of the 3 water commissioners, approval as to form from town council, and then a signature block for the 3 of you. Directly above which is, this agreement will be effective on blank, which is the effective date of the contract. So I don't know if the ask is that they just sign it and not fill in the blank above their signatures, and that'll be filled in by someone else at a later date.
It's going to be signed by the contractor this week, before the end of this week.
Mr.
We can't execute, date the contract until the board signed it anyway. We need the Board of Selectmen signature to date the contract. Town council has reviewed the entire contract and approved it prior to going out to bid, and they've also reviewed it and approved it as to form after it's been awarded.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll turn it back to my board members for any more comments, but let me just state for the record here, in 40 years as a public servant, I've never once signed my name to a legal document without signing the date. It's not going to start today for me.
Paul, I'm not comfortable with it at all, because our meeting is today's date, and if we're signing something today, it can't be backdated. It can't. I mean, I would just ask, why did it get to this? What happened that our dates got messed up on? Shouldn't this have been done a while ago?
Well, the contract was awarded by my board. It went out to bid. As I sent Mr. Crowley an email, we based everything on the assumption that the board met bi-weekly, and you haven't had a meeting since April 25th. Being a time-sensitive project, to get this work done, and before the high demand season comes upon us, there's a lot of factors that come into play getting this project done. Basically, weather, what the service the facility provides to the distribution system, taking it offline. It needs to be drained. That takes a good week to drain the tank, so there's a lot of factors going into the preparation of this. It would have helped getting the board's approval. I understand it was town meeting time, but also going back to last year, the board had 3 meetings that month, last May, so I did request, some accommodation by the board, just a few minutes to get this contract executed previously, but being that didn't happen, that's why we're here tonight.
Mr. Afius, I'm going to ask Mr. Crowley, you referenced an email that you sent to him. I have a bit of a problem that you might be indicating, maybe not, and I could be wrong here, that somehow this is the board's fault. It's not the board's fault. We meet when it's appropriate to set the agenda. Until we sign that, none of this should have been done. But I'm going to ask Mr. Crowley to clarify the email that you sent to him at this time, if he has a recall of that.
Cool. Can I speak prior? Okay.
I'll defer to Paul.
My intent, I think I don't want anything misunderstood. I'm not implying that it's anybody's fault. It's just, it's a very simple thing. I'm a department trying to get a project done as expedient as I can, being the nature of the project, the type of facility that it is, and the work that needs to be done. It's water that provides water to the community, fire protection. We're just trying to get the project done as quickly as possible, and I think we've gone through all the procedures normally done. We've had it approved by town council. Customarily, it's usually one time town council approves the contract. Like I said, they've approved it beforehand and after. So we're just asking for the board's consideration. I can't force the board if you're not comfortable with signing it and dating it today. Or you can sign it and date it today. We'll just have to have the surety reissue bonds, I guess.
Okay, I just want to be clear that this requires our signature, correct?
Correct.
And we're here on May 20th, one of these things is May 32nd, but May 23rd, we're here on May 23rd, 2017, we're on a recorded meeting, official open meeting, and you're presenting us to sign a contract that you're asking us to date sometime in April.
I'm not asking you to date a contract at all. I'm just asking you to
Well,
approve
we're
the
not going to sign
contract.
a contract without a date on it, so you're asking us to date it on a date other than today.
If the board would like to date it today, that's the board's prerogative.
Okay.
And I'll have to
Okay.
do what we need to do. I'll have to go back to have the surety reissue the bonds.
Well, are you asking us to date the contract or not date it, or what are you asking us to do?
I'm asking you to execute the contract as appropriate.
Okay, all right.
My original request would be not to date the contract, to sign it, you're approving it, but if that's not the case, I think in the town council's explanation, if you read between the lines, so to speak, he wants to, what he's saying is as long as the bonds the dates are not after the signing of the contract, excuse me, the other way around, that will prevent the reissuance of the bonds. But I'm not suggesting the board do anything illegal. If the board's not comfortable doing that, that's fine. Date it for today.
Mr. Crowley, do you have anything to add before I ask the rest of the board?
Paul, has the contractor been on site, as had earlier been planned for yesterday?
Yeah, the contract, that's the other thing. I mean, this contractor is from out of state. They're from Amherst, New York, out near Buffalo. So that's another thing. A lot of factors, a lot of moving parts, so to speak, go into the preparation of this contract. But the contractor has been on site to move equipment in.
Let me just clarify this with the due patience from my board here. Are you telling me that you have people doing work for the town of Townsend that has not been authorized by the board?
They're prepping the project, they're bringing in the...
They're doing work on town property that has not been authorized.
They have brought equipment in.
I don't know what to say. Do you have anything to say, Sue?
I don't have any problem with them bringing in equipment, but without asking town council specifically, is it all right for us to approve something without a date? I just don't know the answer to that. I'm not an attorney. I'm certainly not an attorney. So is there, Mr. Cardler, I hate to ask you this, but is there a way that you can contact one of our attorneys?
Again, with another brief recess, I'd be happy to go do so.
I hate to do it, but I think we should at least check with town council. I mean, they're usually available.
Absolutely.
Did you just frame the specific question?
To validate that it is, that we are okay signing a contract and allowing someone to fill in the, I mean...
We don't need...
Well, I mean, do we have to date it? Does it... Yeah, okay.
We don't need to spend the money.
Okay, I have one question for Paul, may I? Paul, how long does it take you to redo the bond surety?
Redo the, excuse me?
The bond?
The bonds, I have no idea. I've never
You don't know
come to
how
this
long-
point before.
You don't know how long it took before?
No, I'd have to check with the company, the contractor's surety.
I'm not comfortable with it. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened, and maybe we could figure out what happened, and maybe we should have called an emergency meeting to sign it, but
I just want the board to understand that it's not a last-minute thing. I've had this thing before since, I've had the request in since May 4th, I think, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Crowther.
On that point, I mean, Paul and I have had a good back and forth electronically on this, and I think you heard Paul say earlier that there was a presumption that the board would be meeting more regularly based on his experience with prior years. And my comment back to Paul was that that's probably not a wise presumption to have made when you know that the critical path item is the signature on the contract before you can move this thing forward. I know the town accountant was equally concerned about having been asked to sign as to an authorization as to the appropriation before it was in place. So I think this is definitely a learning opportunity for all of us about making assumptions about other people's schedules. But again, it's your decision.
Mr. Crowther, I'm going to give my two board members here one to have a comment, but you just said a key word to me, a learning moment, and I would like this, if you could, for us, please, for all of the department heads, we're building fire stations and stuff like that, we don't post-date them, is that if we could check to see that if we don't have a signed contract and there's workers on town property, if we're covered by our liability insurance, our workman's comp insurance, and other liabilities if anyone's injured there. Or if, just so we can have a learning moment, so we could, maybe during your next department head meeting, we can give people a little in-service with that, if you don't mind. I think Cindy asked first, and then I'll go to Sue after, okay? Thank you. I'm sorry that we got to go back and forth to the microphones, but we're trying to do our best.
All right, first I want to say that I'm not comfortable at all signing a contract with backdating it or leaving blank dates, what have you. I know that procurement laws are pretty specific, that you can't contract for something that happened already in the past, and even then, when we sign something to backdate it like that, when we're signing it, we don't know, we need to make sure that the proper procurement laws were followed to make it, which when we're backdating something, we're not sure. I'm not going to say that I believe that there were any procurement laws broken up until this point, but I'm going to sign, I have no problem signing something as long as it's dated today. But I also want to, I'm a little sidebar here, that today's the 23rd, right? Today, I believe, was there a notice sent to all the boards and employees of the town about the free class that was being held at the IG's office in Boston about procurement? There was a free class for all town boards and committees throughout Massachusetts. It was an all-day class, I believe, that the IG's office was giving on procurement laws, so on finance, so that there were no concerns, so that volunteers on boards could attend and learn the basics of procurement. I know I received that. I don't know where I got it. I got it from somewhere. I didn't self-procure that email. So I'm assuming and I'm hoping that somebody in Townsend attended that. I had a conflict, I was going to go, but I'm hoping that some of our board members and some of our volunteers and hopefully some of our paid boards, including the water commissioners, may have sent somebody to attend that. So I think those kind of things would possibly prevent conflicts where we're talking about blank dates and back dates and on contracts. It sounds like this board is very uncomfortable with backdating, so hopefully it's not a big problem to fix whatever's not been done so that we can make sure we have water in town. And I certainly would like to make sure that happens. Thank you.
Sue, did you want anything? Okay, 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm ready to make a motion in a minute, but I just want to say, if your board signed it back in April, then we actually could have gotten it in at our short selectmen's meeting prior to the town meeting, but it still wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have helped you with the bond thing, because that was the 24th, was it not?
That's what the bond company, the surety, dated the bond. We had no control over that. Town council's opinion was that the bonds can't predate when the signatures. I didn't have that ruling prior to that, so.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a learning experience. I am ready to make a motion.
I just want to give Mr. Crowley a chance here, if you don't mind, please. Thank you.
To kind of encapsulate the whole thing, the appropriation wasn't available until town meeting, which was in May. The bonds were dated and issued in April, so regardless of when the board would have met, could have met, you still would have been presented the same situation where you would either be signing a document with the legitimate date causing the bonds and surety to be reissued, or you'd be signing something blank or backdated to allow the bonds to continue to exist. So regardless of whether you could have or should have met at a different time, the funding wasn't in place, so you couldn't have signed that contract anyway.
All right, I'm going to move forward because we still have other things to do here, but I'm taking the gist is that before the ultimate authority town meeting appropriated this money, they were already taking action on it. Yes, okay. So we have a motion this time. We spent enough time. Thank you.
I move that we sign the water department contracts for the Fitchburg Road Storage Tank Replacement Project, and that we date them today with the assumption that the bond needs to go back for application.
Second.
Second. Should we date from here?
Motion's been made in second. All in favor of signing the contract dated today, say aye.
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 Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous, and do we have that to sign right now? Okay, thank you. We'll just take a moment to sign it, folks. And thank you for coming before us today, Mr. Rayfuse. Mr. Crowley, if you could at the next Selectmen's meeting, just give us, in your updates, your normal meetings, an update on what you've found out on learning moments about this for us, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We're moving on. Thank you, sir. We're at this time moving on to 4.10. I move that we ratify proclamation for Dorothy Manso, recipient of the Boston Post cane. It's up to you, I'm sorry.
We're ratifying this because Dorothy actually received her cane last week, and a couple of us were there. Mr. Clark presented her with her cane, and she was very happy, but we want to make sure that we ratify the proclamation because we didn't have a meeting last week. So I move that the board ratify the proclamation for Dorothy Manso, and she's called Dottie, recipient of the Boston Post cane.
Second.
Motion's been made, second. All in favor? Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. And just a little point is I was there with Town Clerk Kathy Spofford, and I didn't see Sue till after, so I apologize. I would have gladly called you up. But it was a full-packed house, and she's a remarkable, wonderful lady. So it was a privilege to be there representing the people of Townsend. Moving on to 4.4. Is that all we have, Mr. Kryler? Before we go to, do we have anything?
You should have
412.
412.
All right.
Review and approve municipal relief transfers for fiscal 17 year end. And you should have a memo from the police chief on that matter.
As read by Mr. Crowther, I'm going to give it to Ms. Lizzie Ofshe. Do you have that, Cindy? It's somewhere in the packet. I'll give you this one.
The chief is here.
Chief, would you like to speak to this or not? Thank you.
Do you have your copy with you, Chief? Do you have your copy of the transfers with you? Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. I think it's in the new... We're all set, Chief. I guess this is a end-of-year transfer for Professional Technical Communications Center.
That's correct, and also additional gross overtime.
Ms. Lizzie, do you have any questions?
I do have a question. So this means that the professional and technical communication accounts, we're doing professional and technical needs $4,200 and communication needs $7,000, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and we'd be taking that to balance that out from the additional gross overtime account?
That's correct.
And that would leave a balance in the gross overtime account of the $15,387?
That's correct.
Okay. Just making sure I understand. Do I read all of the...
I just want to ask Cindy if you don't mind. Sorry. Cindy, do you have any questions for me? Okay. I'm ready for a motion.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll just read the whole thing. Okay. I move that the board approve the end-of-year transfer in the amount of $11,200 to be transferred from additional gross overtime account 00102255130 to professional and technical, the amount of $4,200, account number 00102255300, an amount of $7,000 to communication account number 0010222553340.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. Thank you, Chief, for that. And now we're going to go to 5.1, Town Administrator Updates and Reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Section number 1, while the chief is sitting at the table already, is under Personnel, Police Chief Bailey. The chief has a brief update for you, specifically related to things that have taken place in the short time he's been with us, including, most importantly, the meeting of the Municipal Police Training Committee, wherein they approved his exemption last week, as had originally been forecasted by the board during his appointment. So with that, I know, Chief, I've already handed out a copy of your document to the members of the board, so it's yours.
Thank you. I won't bore you by reading these 7 pages. I'd like to give you the highlights, and as you can see, you have the information in front of you. On May 17th, as expected, and we spoke about the night that you appointed me, my certification was granted by the Municipal Police Training Council. It was a unanimous vote. The certification takes effect immediately, so when they made that vote, it authorized me with all the police powers that are required in the state of Massachusetts. First thing I did was put my uniform on. I feel comfortable with it, and thank you for your patience. What I've been doing in the first month or so is orienting myself with the town and the department. I've been meeting with the department members and will continue to, in relations to operations, future needs, and also budgeting and deployment. As far as staffing on the department goes, we are down 2 positions. I'm looking to start a process to fill those, just waiting for certain other things to come into place before I do that. I can assure you that all our shifts are being covered every day. No shifts go uncovered. And that's been consistent the time that I've been there and from looking back for quite a long time in the department. I've created a career development form that I'll be distributing to members of the department. This form allows a consistent collection, among other things, of department members' expertises, their qualifications, their certifications, and desired trainings and conferences and certifications. It also allows to keep the expiration dates. It's not unusual in our profession, I'm not sure why, for people to get certified in a certain thing and then let it expire and have to go get recertified, which is an expense to the department. But looking through inventories in the department, found that the bulletproof vest grant was not applied for last year. We will apply for it this year. There is some money left from the year before to purchase probably 1 or 2 bulletproof vests. We're also doing an inventory. I'm doing an inventory of the entire department on needs so that we can budget appropriately for them and not have to come and find money at the end of the year to do certain things. I've been taking time to look at the rules and regulations and policies of the department. There are multiple copies of some policies in different places in the department. There is one set that appears to be the most current. In looking at them, there is some needs to update them with the current best practices. There are some policies that are not there that we need, such as social media. Excuse me. Maybe we can work in conjunction, and especially now that we have a new IT person as well. We'll be looking at the mission, vision, values, and a strategic plan for the department. There was one in the works prior to my arrival. In reviewing it, it appears to be a very generic mission, vision, and values that I found several departments in the state that have the exact same mission, vision, and values. Not that they're bad, but what I think we need to do is involve the members of the department to establish what they feel their mission, their vision and their values should be. They're the ones that are going to execute it and own it, so I think it's important to include them. We'll do that through small groups, working groups, and we'll come to a conclusion as to what those mission, vision, values, and once we have those, put a strategic plan into place. I've spent a fair amount of time in the community trying to get to know folks and the processes. You'll see me at different boards and meetings. I feel it's important for me to understand the processes within the town. I did attend the Golden King ceremony, and it gave me a direction in life. You can ask my wife when you see her. I would tell her for day one that I met her that I'm going to live to be 111. So maybe one of you can give me that cane in a few years. So I've got around town to those meetings and others. I've met with some of the department heads and will continue to do so. I've had several long conversations with members of the district attorney's office regarding some issues that I'm dealing with, and also have attended a implicit bias training sponsored by the district attorney's office and continue to be in contact with them. Also had met with representatives of NEMLAC, that's the Northeast Law Enforcement Council. I had conversations with Highway Safety Division regarding grants. There were one highway safety grant that was not applied for. Actually, there were two. We missed the deadline on one, and I will be applying for the second. That should be a grant for money for highway safety initiatives that should be granted towards the end of the year. Some of the upcoming events that I plan to attend are the Veterans Flag Placing Memorial Day Parade. I was informed yesterday that I lead that parade, so I'll be out there and seeing folks with you. I talked a little bit about social media. There has been very little social media output from the department over the last several months, since the beginning of the year, actually. I want to change that. I've found that some of the logins to certain things are held by members who were members of the department who are no longer there, who have to be called and let somebody into the social medias. So I'm going to plan to speak with the IT folks here and get that back on track under our control, under our administration, and make it a more vibrant, informative means for us. Data summary. There are several pages of data that you'll get to see. The reason I put this in here is an example of some of the things that I can show you. And in keeping with the recommendations of the 21st Century Policing Task Force, transparency within organizations is one of the pillars of 21st century policing. And they talk about open data to the public allows for law enforcement and community members to have authentic conversations about what is happening and what the community expects from the police and what the police expect from the community. I hope to be more involved in the community along with the officers that work for the department. I think that's important, especially given the nature of policing in the past few years. So you look at the charts on pages 4, 5, and 6, and they'll show you a number of things. If all the facts are accurate, and I believe they are, we probably could be capturing more items that we do. That's to be looked at in the future. But it tells me very clearly that we have a very safe community. And I say that knowing that the community appears safe. I live in the community. I've always felt safe here, and the numbers prove that to be true. There's a lot of self-initiated. You'll see in there the calls for service, and then there's self-initiated things, like different types of patrols, motor vehicle stops, building checks, area checks, radar. Those are all self-initiated. Those aren't people calling the police department. That's the police department doing something proactively. And that's a good thing. And my thought is that we could be doing more of that, given the number of actual calls for service, that's the top half of that chart, shows that we should have enough time to do more proactive enforcement and community outreach, and we'll look to do those type of things in the future. The one thing I do want to do is involve the department with these. They know the community well, and they know the needs of the community. So we'll meet together and talk and find ways to get out into the community and interact. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Well, congratulations on being certified.
Thank you.
I see that they have you signed up for, or you need to sign up for some online courses.
Right, I have the disc. They have to email me entrance into the project. That's just, it's a review. It's going through, it's not a testing process, it's just a review process that you have to complete.
It's a course of some
Yes.
sort, yeah. And have you transitioned full-time to us now? I know you were still working, trying to clean some stuff up at your previous position.
Yeah, I'm still in the books there, but I'm not working there. I've got to go clean my desk out at some point. I think that will end it.
Good,
But, yeah.
good. Okay, thank you.
Cindy?
Okay, now, just to follow up on Sue's question about the training, the additional training. Now, do all police officers have continuing education requirements to maintain a certification? Would it be expected that an average officer would have to maintain some level of training?
Yes, you have to keep up certain levels of training to stay certified. It's
Okay.
different in different states exactly what you need to do, but there is mandatory training every year. Firearms is one that
Okay.
there is.
So is I did see the review that the board or the training committee had asked you to do. Would you say that's in line with the same type of thing that any officer would?
Not,
At a different level, but,
well, you mean a current officer in Massachusetts?
yeah, is there?
They have certain requirements, but
Right,
to
yeah.
come from another state.
Oh,
what-
I see, okay.
My certification was in New Hampshire, and I was looking
Oh,
for an
right,
exemption to
okay.
get a mass certification.
Okay.
So what they do is they look a lot deeper there. They looked at my entire career, all my education, all my classes, and they draw a correlation to make sure that it fits their standards and that there hasn't been extended periods, lapse of time in your service. So I met all those qualifications, but it's a fairly rigorous examination of your
And I believe you were on that committee at one time.
I was. No, for a short time, I had been
Oh,
appointed to it at one point in
Okay.
time. Yes.
All right.
That was quite a few years ago.
Okay, I don't want to pressure you on that. I see that you have you've set some high standards for yourself and the department, which don't seem to me to be an overreach. They seem to be reasonable, and I appreciate the work that you see that needs to be done, the review you've already done, and the standards that you want to set. I know that, I'm not trying to pressure you in your short time being here already, but I know that several years ago, there had been an initiation to get the police department certified. Now, there's a department certification process, is that something that's available?
There is. There's a state certification and there's a national certification. We're a fair distance away from that, but that's something to look for. I would be probably looking first to do something on the state level. And what it is just making sure, they make sure that all your policies and procedures are in place, that they meet all the standards and are up to date. So that's something we're going to do anyway.
Yeah, I'm not looking to...
Yeah.
I know, my understanding is we don't have it right now, I just was...
Right, certification is an outside independent check on what you're doing. It is fairly expensive as well, so it's very
But
costly.
I was
to
under
do that.
the understanding that several years ago that had been started. I don't know if you're even...
I believe they have it. I've seen the copies. It was about 12, 13 years ago now, I think. Because I can look at it. I saw the policies. Was it more recently? But you're right. I think it was 11 or 12. Dave Prophet was doing it before he left. Yes. So a lot of that has been done, but there has been that maybe 5 years. since he
So
left.
we have
So
some
we'll have to-
basic,
we'll
we have
have to
some
look at-
basic work to do before we can even talk about getting that.
We'll have to look at them and make sure that
Oh, okay.
they do fit the policies and that they are updated.
All right, I just wanted to check in with that. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kryler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just back to the issue of the letter from the Municipal Police Training Committee, a copy of which I do have, because I know there's been some interest in the public in making certain that the document actually is available. I know, for instance, that the police chief in Athol, who came in from the FBI, sought an exemption and was required to actually do the actual training, Reserve Police
The
Officer
reserve
Training
basic
Academy.
training, yes.
Which is not what's happening here, because you're not transitioning from the feds into municipal. You have maintained your municipal certification, albeit through New Hampshire.
That's correct. They do look at all the training, yes.
Yeah, and what they're saying here, if you look to the actual text of the letter, is any person granted an exemption pursuant to this subsection must thereafter successfully complete the Mass Municipal Police Officer Orientation Program. So it's unlike, for instance, the gentleman in Athol who had to do training. You're not being required to do training. You have to go through the orientation that anybody that gets an exemption would have to go through.
That's correct. They have different ways. Sometimes they'll give you a waiver until you, and I'm not sure whether they did that with him or not, but sometimes they'll give you a waiver, and then you go out and get the certification that you need, and they let you work for a certain period of time. I don't know if that's true. They have different avenues to go, but that's not the case with this, because they accepted all of my education and training over the years.
Thank you. All set? I'm just gonna, you want one more time before I talk? Sure.
Thank you. Just Cindy, on what you were talking about, you were asking about education for police officers. I think actually the legislature is looking at that right now. On the MMA website, I saw something about a bill, or working on a bill to try to up the education level of police officers in general for the state. So we might want to keep an eye on that, because that has ramifications on your hiring.
On recruiting,
too,
yes.
You know, but that's just an FYI, because I heard you asking that.
All set, Mr. Lucio? Cindy, you all set? Okay, Chief, first of all, thank you for coming, and I know you've been around town, you've been active, and I appreciate that. And I'm just going to make a short little statement here, is that, I'm not going to go on here, but I just want to make it crystal clear to the people out there that there's been misinformation that somehow you weren't qualified to be a chief. Well, I'll put it right out there. You can Google, you can check, and do all your misinformation. I was an instructor for mass criminal justice at the MBTA, which is on that committee there of chiefs across the thing. One of my students was the former superintendent of the MBT police and is now the chief of Concord, Massachusetts police. He was my student. The chief of Weymouth was my partner, and along with multiple others. I also in Somerville led the largest drug bust in the history of that city with great officers. Why am I telling you this? When I reviewed your application, I knew you were qualified to be a chief. I knew you would take us to a different culture. I knew you had the qualifications. And I think it's an insult to you for anyone who applied that you weren't fit to wear that uniform. I will say no more. The facts are, chiefs across the state say you are qualified. I knew when I reviewed yours, based on my past training experience, and the facts are there, I have it. I am thankful that you were here, and I'm sorry that you have been, I know you just stay out of the politics and you stick to the job. That badge means something to you. But I'm sorry that you were offended your reputation of all these years. So welcome to Townsend, and thank you for being here, sir.
Well, thank you. I don't mind being questioned. I don't mind being asked. If somebody wants to know something about me, just ask me. I have no problem with that, but I appreciate the comments.
Thank you very much. And do we have anything else with the chief, Mr. Kryler? Thank you again for coming.
Okay. Thank you.
If we can move on to, let's see, I'm sorry, we're all
Still within my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
The next you'll see is under miscellaneous communication file. I know that since Ms. Lucio's come on, we've had some discussion about how information is processed within the office. I know that there are policies on the books, that some of which for the Selectmen's office go back to the 90s. Some look like they were done on typewriters, so it's interesting to go back and read that stuff, but there's nothing consistent about the simple process of how information is handled in the office. When a letter comes in, what's done with it, and how it gets in front of you, and how it's elevated to an action item before the board proper. What I put in your packet is a copy of a document which is electronically is several tabs on an Excel spreadsheet. And this is a document process that I've used in another community that boards seem to appreciate. The first tab you'll see is tab A, and it's open items requiring town action. So anytime a document comes in, whether it's hand-delivered or whether it's coming in by email or hard mail, it's logged in this first tab: received, date, to whom it's addressed, from whom it's coming, the subject matter, responsible party or notes, so indicating if it's in fact something that needs to go to the highway superintendent, it would show there. And then the date of resolution, because this is again the tab that has action required. The next tab would be open items requiring an outside party action. So if something comes in and it's not the town that's required to act, but perhaps it would be the school committee, and it's something that is relevant to the town but doesn't require the town proper to take action, this tab would be where those types of communications would exist. The next would be informational items requiring no action. So you get something that comes in informationally that, you know, there's a new piece of legislation that's being proposed for the MMA on police education. Doesn't require any action, it's informational, but it gets logged here so you have the ability to see that as it's coming in. The next is upcoming meetings and or invitations. So if some of the invitations, like the Boston Post cane that we just recently saw, or the Maria Lane Scholarship, those when they come in would again be logged, received, to, from, subject matter, and a column for attending. So when you see this, if you want to be the board member that's going to attend, just let the office know, we plug you in, and then everybody as they're looking at this can see, oh, Sue's going to attend this, or Gordy or Cindy. If we get to the point of a quorum and it's going to require you to participate, then we know it trips the issue of having to schedule an actual meeting. So that's what that tab would be. Lastly, there would be a tab that it clearly says sample across the top in my chicken scratch there. This is for another community. I built this just to show month by month throughout the year the critical path items that we know are recurrent every year at that time, whether it's the budget process, or whether it's the annual reappointments, or the annual licensing and relicensing, or things like union contract reopeners, when those are triggered, or personal service contract reopeners, when those are triggered. Those types of things would be baked into a document like this that would be on the back end of this, so you'd always have that available to you, so you know. I know one issue that Cindy has brought up is, we know that every month there is some proclamation, some cause that is to be recognized as the cause of that month. You do proclamations. They'd also be baked into this document, so every year we would know coming up in March it's going to be XYZ month, and there's a proclamation that'll be appearing before you. The way I've seen this used to some degree of success in another community is, as the information is coming in during the course of the week, Kelly would be logging it, and at the end of the week every Friday, the document would be emailed to you. You would then have the ability to look and say, I want to come in and check out that document, number 3, or this is an action that's requesting somebody to attend, I'd like to do that. You can then respond back to the office and it gets filled in. If you want to come read the documents, they're in the file. There would be one master file that exists in the office where you'd be able to come in and read the hard copy. So you'll have the 10,000-foot view of every document on this document that comes to you electronically. You can read at your leisure, and then you have the ability to come in and see the actual file, again, at your leisure if you have an interest. This would be a running document, so the thing that I took this off of had several thousand documents that were recorded in it. So you'd be able, again, to say, well, didn't we deal with this issue some time ago? You'd be able to go to this document, this tab, hit the find key, be able to go back and find when that issue was before us 3 years ago. So I'd like you to think about this. I'll email you an electronic copy that you can just get a feel for how it looks. And at the next meeting or the meeting after, if you let me know if it meets your satisfaction, we can try it even if on a trial basis to see how you like it. Just to try to have a more directed, funneled way of making certain that the information gets in front of you. And the next item listed is annual town report. The annual town report this year was the first that's been done by the office and on time since I've been here. Last year, we had the books that weren't closed, and it precluded us from getting the report done in a timely fashion. This year, while it was done on time, there were 2 specific sections that were printed in error. And I want to take responsibility for that, and I want to let you know that we are already underway with working with the printer to have the copy of the annual report document, the corrected pages created as a document that will serve as an addenda, that will be made available in all of the files that we still have available, and to the extent that somebody has a copy, we'll have it on the website so people can download it to print off and put into their existing copies at home as well. Moreover, I want to make it clear that while the expense to do so is minimal, it's something that I'm going to be absorbing because I don't think it's appropriate that it's something that the town budget handle, because it's something that shouldn't have happened. So.
If I could interrupt, do you have a cost of that?
But I don't as of yet. I have a sense, but I don't have a hard cost yet.
Would you be comfortable giving me the sense, or giving us the sense?
Couple $100, not a lot.
Okay, you mentioned it to me before that,
Yep.
that you wanted to absorb the cost of this, and I know that there's a couple hundred years we've been doing business, and the annual report from time to time has errors that requires an addendum, and I'm personally just not comfortable charging an employee for just an oversight.
You're not charging me.
Well, you're voluntary. I'm just not comfortable with that, and I just want to go out on the record to say that I'm not comfortable with that, and at some point, I'm not asking for a vote or anything, but I just want to be clear to the townspeople that, especially if you're only talking about a couple $100, I just want to say that mistakes occur, and you're not the first to have been the town administrator when errors have occurred, regardless of whether it be any department that's submitting anything on a town report. That
I just feel, quite honestly, Cindy, I feel that I should have seen it. It's 2 charts.
Maybe.
It's 2 charts in particular.
Sure.
It's the
You might
it's
be
the
right.
It's the building commissioner's chart and the town clerk's election chart, and the charts were not uploaded into the new document. The old ones were kept in the template, and I understand how it happens, but it shouldn't have happened. So it's not that big a deal.
Talk about that later.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I think thank you for taking responsibility for that and for updating that information for us, but I do think it's important, especially the particular things that unfortunately got the wrong stuff in there, like the election stuff. Yeah, I wasn't close enough.
Sorry.
That's all right. Because believe it or not, there are people that go back to those reports, especially when it comes to how many people were registered to vote, how many people were,
Absolutely.
took out applications and whatnot. So I think it is important. I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you. The last thing on my report is asphalt grindings vote surplus. I had a citizen come see me yesterday morning who has a need for asphalt grindings. So this is when we have a road project that we're doing and the big machine goes and grinds up the old pavement and creates kind of a loose mixture of the reclaimed asphalt. We store that and use it. We use it on some of our dirt roads and other projects. DCR, the Department of Conservation and Recreation, that has land and property holdings in town, they use some of our material. As a state agency, we do reciprocal things like that with them. Sometimes citizens have an interest in that. For instance, there's a roadway that's not a town roadway, but there are town homes on it and a business on it. It's a dirt road, and we would all as a community benefit by that road being improved. In the past, it may be that this stuff has been given away, but that's not going to happen now. What I've got before you for your consideration is a letter from Ed Kukula, and he is seeking your approval to declare surplus. The memo reads, the Highway Department would like to declare the following as surplus: 1,500 cubic yards of milled asphalt. Please contact me if you have any further questions or concerns. And the intention would be is if the board declares this surplus, we would put a request for proposals together, bid this out publicly. I have a list now of 4 residents or businesses that have an interest in the material. So there would be a fee based on a procurement process. It's under the threshold of $10,000, but there still is an informal process that would be gone through, so we have a paper file that backs up how this stuff went from the Highway Department to XYZ citizen or business, just to make sure that everything from a procurement perspective is kosher. But Ed does indicate that this is in excess of what we have the ability to use or store for this year. And if it can be used out in the community and we can make $1 or $2 doing it, it'd be his hope that you would declare that as surplus this evening. Yes, please. I don't know if you've seen that, Cindy.
What do you need for a motion then?
It's
1,500 cubic yards. I move that the board declare as surplus 1,500 cubic yards of milled asphalt and to direct the town administrator to take care of it. Publicly go through the procurement process to give it to the highest bidder. Or bidders.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. On to Mr. Crowther. Are you done?
I am finished. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm on to Board of Selectmen announcements, updates, reports. Sue?
We have a couple of announcements to make. One is for a family day on the Squannacook River Rail Trail, scheduled for June 3rd. I'm going to not read the whole things. We're hoping to have participants park at the parking lot at Jeff Street adjacent to the railroad trestle with overflow parking on Jeff Street behind Memorial Hall. Has that been taken care of? Okay. Family activities will be set up along the walking trail along the railroad bed between Townsend Center and Harbor Church and Townsend Center. Families can choose to walk the full 1.8 miles to Harbor Church and back for a total walk of 3.6 miles, or they can turn around at any point before that. Just for your information, Squannacook Greenways has leased the rail bed from the MBTA, and we have developed a walking path along the full length in anticipation of construction of a stone dust rail trail in the near future. This event is free, except the Neshoba paddlers will be renting canoes at the harbor pond for those families that are interested. During the walk itself, the only road crossing is the very quiet old Meeting House Road. Activities set up so far as of this writing: rent a canoe at Harbor Pond, put on by Neshoba paddlers, nature, railroad scavenger hunt, various levels available. Find the largest diameter tree along the trail. Measuring ropes will be provided. Learn how to be a friend to turtles. Nature-inspired art creation table, demonstration of how to climb a tree without low branches by an arborist. I don't think I'm going to try that one, though. We are getting in touch with, I assume they've gotten in touch with Superintendent Landers. They'll be posting that with, publicizing it through the schools so that moms and dads will know what's happening. And that's about it. So mark your calendars. Family Day on the Squannacook River Rail Trail, June 3rd. Exciting to see that happening. Another announcement. Memorial Day will be observed in Townsend on Sunday, May 28th. Members of the Townsend VFW Post 6538 and American Legion Post 199 and their auxiliaries will attend the 9:30 a.m. service at the First Baptist Church of West Townsend as a body. 2 parades and a band concert will take place in the afternoon. Is this something we typically read the whole thing?
They may be.
Okay, then I'll do it too. I can't remember that. Betty May, this is for you.
All due respect, I asked the same question. I was told it was not advisable to read it.
Okay. All marching units will be assembling at the VFW Park in West Townsend at 1 p.m. Reverend Mark Brockmeyer will offer the invocation at the memorial service to be held there at 1:30 before the veterans groups, accompanied by the Townsend Military Band, the Townsend Fire EMS Department, the Townsend Minuteman Company, and the Townsend Knights of Columbus Council 14842. The Daughters of Isabella Mother Teresa Circle 1142, North Middlesex Cares, members of the clergy, town officials, and numerous scout groups march east on Main Street to Canal Street. That all starts at 1 o'clock. Flowers will be strewn upon the water from a decorated boat during the memorial service at the Canal Street Bridge in honor of those who lost their lives at sea. Following the service at the bridge, all units will proceed to the Riverside Cemetery for a memorial service. At both of these services, Reverend Kevin Patterson will give the invocation, the Townsend Military Band will play a hymn, volleys will be fired by the American Legion Post 199 firing squad, and taps will be played. The parade will disband after leaving the cemetery to later reform at the Spalding Memorial School in Townsend Center. At approximately 2:35, the Townsend Minuteman Company will fire a salute at the Bicentennial Monument in front of the school before marching units move down Turnpike Road to the Main Street Bridge. Those who lost their lives at sea will also be honored during the Main Street Bridge Memorial Service, with flowers being strewn upon the water from a decorated boat. Following the service at the bridge, the marchers will parade to Memorial Hall for a memorial service. Pastor Chris Jones will offer the invocations at the bridge and the Memorial Hall. The parade will then pass around the common and go to the Hillside Cemetery for a memorial service. The Freemasons of the Grand of Massachusetts, who will join the parade at the school, will separate from the other marchers at the cemetery so they may conduct a special memorial service at the grave of Henry Price, the founder of Masonry in America. After leaving the cemetery, the parade will move down Highland Street to Brookline Street into the Townsend Common. Reverend Jeremy St. Martin will give the invocations at the cemetery and the Common. The invocation at the Common will be followed by the presentation of the Gettysburg Address by a Boy Scout and Flanders Field by a Girl Scout. The parade will disband after the memorial service at the Civil War Monument on the Common. Townsend's Memorial Day observances will continue as the Townsend Military Band presents a concert from the bandstand on the Common beginning approximately 15 minutes after the parade's conclusion. The band will perform Bagley's National Anthem March in Kentucky 1800 by Grudman, the Grand American Fantasia by Bendix, Our America arranged by Higgins, and the Peacemaker March by King will be included in the afternoon program. The Salute to the Armed Forces, arranged by Kirkland, and America the Beautiful, arranged by Dragone, will be performed before the Townsend Military Band concludes its Memorial Day concert at approximately 5 p.m. by playing the Star-Spangled Banner. The Townsend Memorial Day observances will be held rain or shine. It is hoped that many area residents will come out to watch the ceremonies. All veterans and active military, with or without uniforms, and/or members of their family are encouraged to march with the American Legion and Veterans of Foreign War members and to join them in honoring all deceased comrades. The Townsend Fire EMS Relief Association will offer hot dogs, hamburgers, sausages, cold soda, and bottled water for sale at the Common on Sunday, May 28th from 12 noon throughout the afternoon of the band concert. That's that one. I have one other announcement, and this has to do with, well, this is a note from the Planning Board. And the subject is the Master Plan Update Committee. Every 10 years, our bylaws state we need to review our master plan. Chapter 78 begins with, "There shall be a master plan committee charged with assisting the town in its long-range planning." The most recent draft of the master plan from 2008 is available on the town website under the Planning Board. You can also view the approved master plan from 2001. Clearly, we are ready for an update and we need your help. The Planning Board is forming a master plan review committee and would like input from as many sources as possible. Is asking to choose a representative from each department, board, or commission to participate and send their contact information to Michelle. So they're asking the Board of Selectmen as one of the boards for a representative. I would be willing to serve on that. I don't know if you want something in writing that says so, but...
Well, I'm not, so how about you, Cindy?
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Ms. Licio as the Selectmen's representative to the Master Plan Committee.
Second. Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Let the vote show it's unanimous.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Cindy, updates?
I just want to add a little bit to the Memorial Day activities, or the weekend activities. This Friday, they're requesting assistance on the Hillside Cemetery at 10 a.m. to place flags on all the veterans' headstones. So I know there's usually a group that does that, but they're always looking for more volunteers. Also, the high school at 8:30 is asking for veterans and those interested to participate, and they're having a breakfast and a ceremony as well at 8:30 at the high school. So.
Okay, just a couple quick things. First, I'd like to thank Sue for reading the Memorial Day very important document, and the good news about that is that normally you only have to read that once every 3 years. When we only had two members, I had to read it 2 years, so I was very happy when Cindy came along, and so I guess that's a rite of passage, reading that important document, so thank you for that. Initiation, but a nice one, so thank you. And moving on last Saturday, I had the great privilege of attending over here at the old decrepitated bank and annexes we knew about that should have been condemnable. I thought I was seeing Bob Villa at this old house, how good it is inside there. And it's a tribute to all the people in recreation, but more important to all the local businesses and citizens who gave thousands of hours operating on a Band-Aid to make that place a show place. I mean, I was so impressed, and so to them and everyone of you in town, and we had someone from Nashua, New Hampshire come down who heard about it and put all the tile in for free. So I mean, that's a tribute to everybody, and a lot of our staff in town, I don't want to leave anyone else though, but I know Mark Mercurio, Rich Hanks, even the clerks, because we had all 40 years of records that had to be moved, so it was a team effort. So to the recreation, congratulations, and you have a home, I hope, for forever there, and you earned it, so congratulations. And then the last thing, I'll make this quick, and normally I should quit, not say stuff, but I have a saying, I wasn't going to say that, but, all right? And my but is that I am deeply moved that our person who's in charge of all department heads and sets an example for having accountability. I know he doesn't want to talk, so I'm going to say quick about accepting what he thinks is maybe a lapse in work performance on a small thing on the thing, which I agree with Cindy that it's not necessary, but I actually have great respect that you hold yourself a higher accountability for people you lead to follow. But I will say this, that on a personal note, no less than 20 times I begged this man not to come to work during the last 4 months. And despite me begging him not to come to work, I wouldn't have been here to work after what he's gone through. He came to work every day, and we got our money's plus. And I only can hope for your permanent cure. Thank you, James Crowley, for being our administrator. That's all I have. And with that, I will take a 5.3. Do we have any meeting minutes, Mr. Crowley?
Mr. Chairman, we don't have any this evening, but the actual item says approval of meeting minutes and discussion of status of minutes. And again, it's something that Ms. Lucio and I emailed back and forth about a little bit. As of right now, we are caught up on regular session minutes with the exception of April and one in May. So tonight's will be the second in May, so there should be 5 sets of minutes. And I know Kelly was working on 2 of those sets today. It would have been premature to present them this evening because you wouldn't have had the opportunity to review them. But the commitment is at your next meeting to have everything up to date, and the commitment then is within the next 2 days after each meeting to have that draft of that prior 2 nights ago meeting complete for your review.
Thank you. If it's all right with my 2 board members here, I move to 5.4 to review and sign payroll and bills payable warrant out of session.
Mr. Chair, I move that we review and sign the bills payable and payroll warrants out of session.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. I will take a motion to adjourn at this time.
Move to adjourn at, 8:28?
A second. And motion's been made and moved. We are now adjourned. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
The envelope, please.
Yes, okay. Thank you, folks. Have a nice night.